Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Take 5 for Torah. Today is August 6th. It's the 12th of Av. And if it's Wednesday, that means we're asking the question, why do we do that? So first of all, since tefillin is mentioned in this week's parsha, I'd like to point out why when you have the shel yad, there's like a little cover on top of the shel yad that we always wear. So the reason for this is because the Torah says, V'haya lecha la'os al yodcha. The tefillin is a sign for you, the tefillin shel yad. When it says, Tuk speaks about the tefillin shel rosh, uletotafos beinecha, that's always to be seen, not to be covered, not with a hat, not with the talis. The tefillin shel rosh should always be seen. The tefillin shel yad should usually be covered, possibly with the jacket sleeve, with the talis, or with that little black covering that we all wear on top of the tefillin. What is the message? Is that you see that the arm tefillin represents strength. The Torah says, with a strong hand, God took you out of Egypt. So we wear our tefillin on our weak hand, yad keha. The word yadcha there is spelled yud dalet chaf hey, which soon seems to be a conflation of two words, the weak hand. God, my hand is weak next to your strong hand. So that when it comes to our strength, we should keep our strength to ourselves. We don't have to show off our strength. But when it comes to what we know, we should share our knowledge. The tefillin shel rosh represents knowledge that sits at the seat of the brain. And we wear the tefillin in a place that we're supposed to share knowledge, share things we know with others. And that's why the tefillin shel rosh is Kishem Hashem Nikra Alecha, is like as the pasuk says, they'll look at our tefillin shel rosh. It's to be seen, it's to be shown off. Now, how do we know that the tefillin shel rosh is worn above the hairline and not mamish between the eyes? Because the Torah does say it should be for an ornament between your eyes. So between our eyes is right here. Why do we wear the tefillin all the way up here? So the Gemara says the only other place in the Torah outside of the context of tefillin where the word between the eyes appears is where the Torah says, do not pull out the hair between your eyes, lo tosimu korcha bein einechem lemeis. When someone loses a close relative, their first inclination is to do something, I can't believe I lost this person, and pull out hair, scratch themselves like the ancients used to do. So the Torah says, don't do that. Accept God's decree, say tzadok hadin, justify God's judgment, and we say Kaddish. Kaddish doesn't mention the dead. Kaddish is about sanctifying God even at our most difficult times. That's the Jewish people, is that this Torah says, do not pull out the hair between your eyes. Now, no one has hair right between their eyes. Maybe Groucho Marx does, but no one else does. If you're going to pull out hair between your eyes, it's up here. So the Gemara says it's called Gzeira Shava. The Gemara Menachos says, just as don't pull out your hair between your eyes is up here in that mitzvah, so too it's up here for tefillin as well. Okay, and so the time we most likely or liable to question God's judgment is when we lose someone dear to us, someone for whom we'll sit shiva. So what does the Torah say to do at that time? Just remember that you wear tefillin shel rosh up here to remind yourself that just as your hand is weak compared to God's strong hand, ki biyad chazakah hotziach Hashem mitzrayim, so too our understanding, our knowledge, our process of understanding what's happening in the world is weak compared to God's big picture, compared to God's grand plan. And even if something that's part of that grand plan doesn't work for me right now, I understand it. I'm going to say Kaddish. I will tzadok hadin. I'll understand what God is doing. So that explains why we wear tefillin on the weak hand and why the tefillin shel rosh is connected to the mitzvah of how we react to the dead, because it's crucial to submit our strength to God and submit our understanding to God. He knows better, He knows more. And there is another limud of why we wear tefillin on our weak hand. It says, ukshartem uchsavtam. The hand that writes the tefillin is the hand that puts on the tefillin, that ties the tefillin. Not the one that wears the tefillin, but the one that ties the tefillin. So you can possibly have someone, I sometimes feel that way, that your stronger hand is your less dexterous hand. You write with one hand, but the other hand is much stronger. There's a debate between the commentaries, the Magen Avraham, the Vilna Gaon, over which one wins out in such a case. But we get the point, is that these customs with regards to tefillin is meant to accentuate the idea to put ourselves very comfortably with God in our strength, in our knowledge, our understanding, as we put the totafos, the zikaron, the totafos, and the os all together on a regular basis to remind ourselves of God.